Wildlife Exposure again. Thanks for having me on. Wrapped to be here with you. And today I thought we would talk about frogs. So we keep a few frogs here at Wildlife Exposure, a few different species, and they are amazing animals. They were probably one of the first animals I discovered as a kid in my garden and just became fascinated with. They've been on Earth for around 200 million years. So they are incredible creatures. In many ways, fascinating for the way that they change and grow through their life. I mean, life all began in the oceans, in water, and then moved on to land. And frogs are a great example of that, aren't they? Because we know frogs start their life as a tadpole. And we can talk about that a bit more in a moment. But frogs are an amphibian. So amphibians meaning they have permeable or wet skin. Amphibious means you live water and land. So that's what frogs do. They need water on their bodies to basically keep them functioning, keep them happy and healthy. Some frogs have adapted to live in deserts though, however, so they're very adaptable, but they do have wet skin, and they're the only amphibians we find naturally in Australia. So there are no other amphibians found in Australia naturally. So there are salamanders, newts and others, but we don't have them here in Australia. There are also toads. But as you probably know, we don't have any native toads. So there is an introduced toad, the cane toad, but frogs are the only natural amphibians we have in Australia. And my little buddy up here, before he takes off on me, I thought I'd introduce you to my little friend Greenie here. And Greenie is a green tree frog for obvious reasons. Green coloration, camouflaging, helping it to blend into its environment. They're not found here in Victoria. These are found in the northern parts of Australia and very common. They're known as a common green tree frog. They're pretty chill. You can see he's pretty relaxed hanging out here with me. And being a tree frog, he belongs to a genus of frogs known as Latoria. And the Latoria genus have big adhesive discs, so sticky toes, to help them climb, but they're not suction caps. Frogs actually have adhesive. They secrete like a sticky substance from the tips of their toes to help them to climb. See if I can show you a little here now, if I just gently pick him up. And I have wet my hands earlier, so I've made my hands, make sure they're very clean. Frogs don't like any chemicals or salts and oils on my hand. I don't use any moisturizers, so he's more comfortable on my hand. And you can see his toes there. So really well adapted to climbing. Whoa, I don't know if you saw that. He just squirted water out of his backside. And that's a defense mechanism. So he does that to distract a predator. So if he thinks I'm a predator or I might be thinking about eating him, he might squirt water out of his backside. It could go in a predator's face or even just distract a predator. Move the grass where the water hits or some leaves, and that movement creates a distraction for him then to get away. So it's a pretty cool, fun fact. Frogs can squirt water out of their backsides to scare off predators. Now, the green tree frog has got a cool scientific name. I mentioned Latoria is its genus. Its species name is Caerulea. Now, Caerulea in Latin means blue. You think, why would you call a green tree frog blue? Well, there's an interesting story. When discovering this frog in Australia and they were classifying it, they sent specimens back to the museum in London, and those specimens were preserved in a fluid, in a liquid, and that liquid turned the skin of the frog blue. So when they received the specimen, examining it, classifying it, they often name an animal depending on how it appears and certain adaptations that it has. So they gave it the name Caerulea because it appeared blue to them. But I guess green has undertones of blue, and you can even see that in him. He's almost got a little bit of blue around his mouth and on the sides. And green tree frogs can be blue. So it's very rare, but you can get a blue-coloured green tree frog. You'll see it brown, different tones of green, and they can change the tone. So they can go from dark green to light green to almost brown, depending on their mood or where they are. So wanting to blend into their environment, they're able to change the tone of their skin. He's got a lot of character, the green tree frog. I reckon they're real little characters. Where are you going, mate? I'll pop him back up here. He might just hang there or go for a little wander, but I'll keep my eye on him. Whoa! Or just jump over there like that. Working with animals live, it's fun, isn't it? Look, I'll grab him. He's just stuck to the wall there. Here he is. Thanks, mate. Look, do you want to sit up there? He's hanging out there for a bit. You right? Good boy. All right, he might jump again, but that's exciting, isn't it? Now you can see him breathing there, obviously. Yeah, the movement under his chin. And that bit of skin frogs use to amplify their croak, as you're probably aware. They croak, only the males croak. So I know he's a boy. I've heard him croaking, I've seen him croaking. So the males make the noise to attract a mate. So the stronger, louder frog is the one more likely to attract the female frogs, and that's good for the species. So it ensures, survival of the fittest, survival of the strongest, and they can then attract a mate and pass on their genes. Now, using that throat to amplify their sound, they have no muscles in it. So lack of muscles in their throat mean they do not eat their food using muscles. They don't swallow. So they actually use their eyeballs. It's pretty bizarre, but when a frog eats, their eyeballs sink into their skull and they push the food down their throat. So bizarre. I'm going to get interrupted again in a minute. I've got someone coming over here. No, he doesn't see me. We'll be banging on the door in a minute. Look, yeah, so they're really bizarre. When they eat, they sort of blink and their eyes sink into their skull and push the food down their throat. It's amazing to watch them eat. And they'll eat anything they can fit in their mouth. So predominantly insects, but frogs can eat other frogs. They can eat small lizards, snakes, even mice and birds. I don't know if you can hear him. Luca, I'm in here. I've got a kid screaming at me. In the office. Great. Gonna get interrupted. Never mind. It's part of life, isn't it? So, mate, I'm doing a video. Bear with me, guys. Sorry again.
Are you talking?
I'm talking, yeah. I'm talking to people. I'm doing the frog thing. Yeah?
Are you doing a frog video?
Yeah, doing a frog video. This is Luca. Now that you're here, Luca, do you want to try and feed a frog?
Yeah.
All right, so we'll just talk about feeding frogs. We feed our frogs predominantly insects here, and I've got a bucket of cockroaches right next to me, so we keep some pretty weird things in our office. So let me grab one for you, Lukey, all right? Grab a little cockroach there. And here you are. Just hold it up to his mouth gently and see if he wants that cockroach. All right, I'll help you a little bit, guide it up there. Let's just hold it there a little bit and see if he wants it. You want it?
I don't think he does.
No, he doesn't. You hold it then, you hold it. There's some frogs behind us here, so we keep them, and one of them might eat this little cockroach. Just wait a second, buddy. I'll bring the camera with me. We're improvising here, aren't we? Here we go.
What about that one?
No, do that one up there. He's really hungry, I can tell. So hold it up to him, see if he gets it.
He's not.
Hold it again. He might just be a bit... Oh, there he goes, got it. Oh.
He's got it.
How's that, Luca?
Yeah.
Awesome. So it's very quick. You wouldn't see it, but the eyes would have sunken into the skull to push that cockroach down his throat. All right, mate. Do you want to lead me to it? Thanks for your help.
But I want to stay with you.
You want to stay with me? All right. Well, if you stay, you can. Just don't interrupt me too much, okay? So when I'm talking about frogs. Okay, cool boy. And I didn't mention, I can't remember now, but frogs are an environmental indicator. So that means scientists, ecologists, environmentalists will use frogs to indicate to them how healthy an environment is. And the reason is for a couple of reasons. One, I guess they're being amphibians, they need clean water, they need a clean environment. Number two would be the fact you don't have to see a frog to know it's there. You can hear it. And you can even determine the species of frog by the sound, because all frogs make a different sound. You can even estimate numbers of frogs from a recording. So they're really great ways to indicate the health of an environment. Being largely insectivorous, little predator eating small animals, frogs' presence means there are other animals living there, I guess, smaller invertebrates, and good sign of a healthy, biodiverse environment. And if you've got frogs in your garden, it's a good sign you've got a healthy environment. And I often encourage people, if you've got a garden, try not to use pesticides and chemicals because they will affect frogs. So if you're going to have a pesticide-free garden, it's going to help the froggies. And also leaving little bodies of water for frogs and other native animals is really helpful as well. I guess frogs need the water to lay their eggs in. So if you've got little bodies of water, a little frog pond, it can really make a difference to the biodiversity of your backyard. Now, talking about frogs, I have some tadpoles in front of me as well. So we've been really lucky the last couple of years to have successful breeding of our growling grass frogs. And growling grass frogs are an endangered species here in Victoria. So we're really excited to have them spawn eggs. And we have hundreds of tadpoles that I've been having to change water and keep them going and feed them frozen lettuce leaves. And anyway, I've got some here that have actually started to metamorphose. So metamorphose is that word we use for animals' transformation. Okay, so the few that I have with me are starting to transform. I'll bring the camera down so you can have a closer look here. Here we go. You can see them there. How cool. So there's a bit of a cross selection there. We've got this big guy on the bottom. He's only just starting to get his back legs. We've also got one over here in the corner. It's got front and back legs. So he's starting to metamorphose into what we call he's a metamorph at the moment, and then he'll eventually absorb his tail and become a little froglet. So there he is there. There he is. You can see the arms, front arms, back. So first it's the back legs, then it's the front legs, and then that tail will absorb. It will not fall off, but absorb into its body. So they utilize the nutrients and the energy from the tail to help then develop its lungs. So that's what I find so incredible, that, you know, amphibian, meaning water and land, they actually truly live in the water as a tadpole with gills like a fish, and then grow lungs like owls and become air-breathing vertebrates. It's incredible. Now, these guys at the bottom, they're trying to find things on the bottom. Largely tadpoles, they are herbivorous, so eating rotting plant matter on the bottom of a pond or place where they live, the creek or whatever. Can you see them there, Luca? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So when they grow into frogs, they then don't eat any plant matter. They become carnivorous. It's really interesting. So yeah, hopefully out of the hundreds of tadpoles, we'll get a very good number of froglets, and we'll probably pass them on to other zoos or sanctuaries and keep a few for ourselves and future breeding programs. And the reason they're endangered in Victoria, habitat loss, but also again, chemicals and pesticides have, they run off into waterways and have damaged some of their habitats, and also introduced pests such as cats can be a problem for frogs. So cats, they're natural predators, and some frogs, can be out during the day at times, and cats can be hunting them even at night. So cats are a bit of an issue as also for frogs, which you don't always think of, but you've got a cat in your backyard, keeping it inside is going to help our native animals, like even frogs. Cool. Well, I've got some other species quickly I wanted to show you as well. So I'll bring the camera back up. Here. All right. And what about if we look at a different genus of frogs? So tree frogs, Latoria, sticky toes for climbing. Although, before I move on, I will show you another type of tree frog that we keep here. The growling grass frog is a tree frog, but I can't really handle them to show you. They're really crazy and they're hard to get out of their enclosures. But there is a frog I might be able to catch to show you, which is a very close relative to the growling grass frog, and it is a green and gold bell frog. Called a green and gold bell frog for obvious reasons. You can probably picture this frog. It's actually green and gold. So I'll try and find a really colourful one to show you. They're just in the enclosure here behind me. Sorry, Luke, you have to move a couple of things, mate. Don't pull all that out. Just getting up to stuff while I'm distracted here. Don't pull that out. And let's have a look at a green and gold bell frog. Luke, you want to have a look at one with me? Let's see if I can find one. They're really hard to find sometimes, aren't they? Oh, there's a couple up the corner here. Oh, they're so jumpy, these frogs. Oh, that's the one I want to show you. He's a really colourful one. Oh, they're so jumpy, aren't they? Oh, got him. All right, here we go. Here we go. This is a green and gold bell frog. See the colour on that animal? Green and gold. They've also got a famous, very hard to handle, bright blue coloration in their thigh there. And they share that same coloration with the growling grass frogs that are their close relatives. See the sticky toes also? Not as big, but they also have those sticky adhesive discs like all tree frogs. One of my favourite frogs, really stunning little animal. And in Victoria, these are also listed as an endangered species. But they are also found up into New South Wales. Really beautiful, beautiful frog. I'm going to put him away. He doesn't like me handling it too much, so let's put him back in there. There we go. Great. Well, I was going to show you also another type of frogs. The frogs are berry. So there are a number of different genuses of frogs. This next genus, though, is not a tree frog. So it's in a genus known as Limnodonastis, and these frogs berry. So its feet don't have the sticky toes on it. And he's a frog that you'll find in your garden. You might be familiar with this frog. I used to find them when I was digging in the garden with my dad as a kid, and even here on the property we find them when we're doing a bit of gardening, and even in sand pits, in schools and in backyard sand pits are very common. So this is a banjo frog, an eastern banjo frog. So excuse me while I just try to find it here. It's buried into the dirt of this enclosure. Oh, I've got more kids coming in now. This is fun. Okay, so this is the banjo frog. Isn't he awesome? Now, again, not very cooperative frogs. I have to hang on to it like this, just very safely and gently. It doesn't hurt the frog at all. Covered in dirt because he's been buried. And hey boys, if you're going to play, do you want to go play out on the deck? Okay, go on the deck, boys. Sorry, guys. So yeah, this little guy, if you look at his feet, he's got long claw-like toes. So they help him to dig. And really big and round, these frogs are often mistaken for toads. And if you remember me saying we do not have any natural or native toads, naturally occurring toads, native toads in Australia. They, got a big round body and people think they might be a toad, but definitely not a toad. Banjo frog. He's really cool. One of my favourite little frogs. And they make a noise like a banjo. So again, their common name describes a little bit of the animal's behaviour, and they make this noise like a banjo, like you think of dong 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 dong. They go bong 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 bonk bonk bonk. Pobble bonk is the other common name for them, a pobble bonk frog, and you're probably familiar with that sound. You would have heard it in October. They start to make a lot of noise, and a lot of them it could sound like a little cacophony of banjos going off. But they're beautiful frog. They love. I'll put them in. They love permanent bodies of water. So dams, ponds, permanent bodies of water, and they bury into the mud or reeds around dams and waterways. So guys, I hope you enjoyed meeting a few of the frogs we keep here. And again, if you've got frogs in your backyard or you would like frogs in your backyard, I encourage you, try not to use pesticides and chemicals, and keeping cats inside can make a huge difference to all native animals, and frogs included. And again, they're great to have in the garden because they're eating insects, so keeping your mozzie population down, flies and things like that. And it's always just great to be sharing your backyard with the true locals, the native animals that we're so lucky to have here in Australia. So thanks again for having me on. I hope that was interesting, and please check us out on our website, wildlifeexposure.com.au, our YouTube channel if you haven't seen. We've got some wild kids vids. We made a frog episode, and that's got a little bit more information there too about some frogs that we have on the property, and some of the filming we're able to get a bit closer to some of the feeding of the frogs, so you might be able to see a little more of that behaviour I talked about with the eyes pushing the food down their throat. And again, as always, thanks so much. Take care out there, and look forward to speaking with you next time. Ciao. See you later.